Stay tuned with us. I think this will be a very interesting commentary today. Make sure everything is going well. Okay, Brother Johnny Groove 19 Promotions, Manning, South Carolina, the 19 Report coming to you live. Thanking everyone for tuning in for this broadcast commentary. Today we're going to talk about, I'm actually writing a commentary that I said would come out probably about a month ago called um, Satan's Last Stand. But each time I'm writing on this particular subject, something else comes up that is pertaining to Satan's last stand. And one particular thing that is pertaining to Satan's last stand is the fact that we are constantly outside of ourselves looking for something or someone to blame for our condition and all of our problems. This is the main thing that is happening with us right now in this country in particular. We're looking for someone or something to blame for our problems. So if it wasn't President Obama for white people, it's Trump for black people and poor and gay. It's always something that we're looking for. Now, depression and self-doubt has caused us to separate ourselves from ourselves. We're looking for a way to get away from how we feel, who we are. This is the reason why television is so important. This is the reason why someone will just be getting on their feet trying to get a new home, but the first thing they have to do is get cable because we have to be able to escape. And why people say thank God it's Friday, because Friday is a means of escape. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Some of us start on Thursday. We want to separate ourselves from this thing that was, I think, eloquently put together in an entertaining movie called The Matrix. We're searching for that ideal condition or situation that will make us feel happy and worthy of life. This is where we are right now. Now, depression is a chemical imbalance, and it starts with our thoughts. Thought create depression because thought is what causes the chemicals in the body to alter. So depression starts with a thought. And today's society, both young and old, literally are permanently depressed because of all of the chemicals in the that are being introduced into the body through the foods, through the drugs, both legal and illegal. Even before birth, we are victims of ongoing depression. Now, today we are talking about the three brains. But today in particular, we are talking about the lower brain. When a man runs after a woman, they say he's thinking with his other brain. When a man sees a fine woman, the first thing he does, he grabs his crotch, ooh, wee, because that brain is excited. This is something that is taught throughout biblical scripture, but the Bible is such a secretive book that most people never learn the book. Most people just get the literal sense or they get the allegorical sense and they run with that. But they're not able to teach the internal knowledge of the book. We're talking about the sexual brain. We're not going to take long today, but something has been tugging on me strongly, thinking about the past, not with white people, but the past with our people, and how the woman goes out, she engages in sexual encounters with all different kinds of men. She brings the babies home and puts it on the man that is in front of her. This your baby. Thinking that she's gotten away with infidelity, she has destroyed her mind, the man's mind, and the child's mind all at one time because of sexual pleasure. We're going to have to start taking accountability for that. The older people, I don't think they'll ever take a responsibility. Now that they're in their older ages, 50, 60, 70, they really believe they never did anything wrong, male and female. Now that they're in the church, they really think that all the stuff they did is forgotten because they forgot. But what you do to a person and how you affect that person all of their lives is never forgotten. It may be forgiven, because God forgives, but God never forgets. The Bible is a book of remembering. Now, depression is a chemical imbalance, both illegal and legal drugs. I didn't even say, I apologize, that we are broadcasting live on Facebook right now, through Facebook Live on the phone, and also we're broadcasting on YouTube Live. But I put in a link on Facebook that you can listen to the broadcast. And I wanted so bad to say, if you do not listen commentaries, please don't like it. Don't like it if you haven't listened to it, because when you don't listen to it, you just like it, but you don't share it. And we believe that God is giving us this information to share with other people. So if you're constantly hitting the like button, you haven't heard it, so it didn't affect you any, positive or negative, and then you like it and nobody else hears it because you don't share it. I would rather you listen to it piecemeal, a little bit at a time, a little bit later. I know talking is boring. We want to, Jesus, and Jesus gonna tell you, and Jesus gonna, and Jesus gonna. Well, that's not me. I'm not that guy, because that is not how God said for me to do it. I want to open up a building of teaching by God's permission, with all of the people who have something to teach, taking turns to teach finance, business, gardening, spirituality, all of these things. Different people, white, black, red, brown, and yellow, does not matter. But I would love for us to begin to teach. Now, let's get back into this, the sexual brain. I want to show you how God talks to us and how he created the human form to not only have a brain, but backup in order to check that brain in hopes that we'll go higher in our understanding. Now we're talking about depression. Most people don't like to be depressed. And one of the biggest medical um, fields today are medications for depression. But what if God wants us to be depressed? What if depression causes us to think about what we are doing or what we are not doing that is causing us to be depressed? What if depression takes us through our past and make us to think about the things we may have done to other people, how we may have harmed other people, how we may need to improve ourselves so that we don't make that same mistake again? What if depression causes us to look inside of ourselves and ask God for help? So Satan don't want you depressed. He wants you happy all the time. So everything he teaches us is happy, 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 entertainment, happy, frivolity, happy. Just do whatever makes you happy. So we are popping pills, smoking marijuana, drinking, screwing, whatever we can do to stay happy. So we never have time to think about what we may be doing wrong and how we may improve on our lives, because we're constantly looking for that happy. Halle Berry was given an award for wanting to feel good in Monsters Ball. And now she has a new movie out where she literally uses the same line. Her husband dies, her husband's best friend comes in the picture. She asks, can you make me feel good? Can you make me feel alive? Can you make me feel happy? God says there's a time and a place for every emotion and feeling under the sun, a time to be happy, a time to cry, a time for loss, a time for mourning, a time for joy. But we don't want any of that. We just walk around, praise God, praise him, oh, saved and sanctified, blessed and highly favored. I'm just happy all that. You a liar. And our children can read through that, because they follow our path with school and college and doing what they're supposed to do and realize they're still miserable. Depression. So most of us, because of our chemical imbalance, are depressed before we're born. We're victims of ongoing depression. So what are we looking for? We're looking for an escape. We're looking to be happy. Now, God bless us with 3 brains, really 4, but the 3 brains that we possess in the body. When these 3 brains function properly, we are blessed to see God every single day of our life. In every action and in every reaction, when the 3 brains of the body are functioning succinctively, we see God in the good and we see God in the bad, or what we consider to be bad. We see God in it all. So the 3 brains, the mind, the heart, and the sexual organs. These are the three brains that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And this is the information that no one wants to hear about, because then we will be held accountable for the things we do. Well, we can run for as long as we can, but God is holding us accountable today. God has said, because you have forgotten about me, I will forget about your children. Now, you look out into the world and you see our children, see what we did to them. See how we try to hide behind God and take them into the same house of worship that we did all of our evil in, that we justified our evil in. And then they see that. And we wonder why they don't accept the things that we want for them to accept. Three brains: the mind, thought, the heart, the love, and the sexual organs, the penis, the vagina. These are the things that we are being taught to learn to control. Now, the three brains, the heart, sexual organs, create the soul if we are properly nourished. The soul goes beyond the brain. The soul goes to what they call a diamond soul or a diamond brain. It goes beyond. It connects us with God. Jesus was sent to address the issues that kept us from knowing and seeing God for ourselves. The issues of mind, heart, and sexual organs can cause an imbalance in the area, or they cause an imbalance that are the beginning of evil and the beginning of falling in love with evil and the beginning of falling away from God. Now, this is something we don't care to know. We want to convince ourselves that going to church or mosque or praying or listening to gospel music all day or shouting is all we need in order to be at peace with God. We may be at peace with our evil self, but God requires more of us. And it's really not a difficult requirement, just that we see ourselves for who we are and work towards bettering ourselves every day. Be ye perfect, Jesus says, because perfect practice makes perfect. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but you're trying to perfect yourself. I'm trying to perfect myself for the rest of my life. Now, the issues of mind and heart and sexual organs can cause an imbalance that are the beginning of evil and falling in love with evil. Most of us don't even know that we're evil. We really, really think we're good because we think that our actions don't have an equal and opposite reaction. We don't think we hurt ourselves or our souls or anyone else. So we don't try to improve anything about ourselves because we've fallen into this routine of Sunday church, talking nice to people and doing nice by people and thinking that these are the keys to success with God. If that were the case, then the world wouldn't be in the condition that it is in, because everyone says that they are following Jesus or following the laws of God. Even evil people say they're following some God. Now, most of us don't even know we're doing evil. So we don't try to improve on anything because we really believe that we got it all together. This is the first and biggest mistake that we make as creations of God, thinking that everything that I think is right and everything that you think is wrong, or because you drink and I don't, I'm better than you, but I smoke or I commit adultery or I gossip or I steal, I rob, I lie, but I am not doing what you're doing, so I'm better than you. That's the way we think. Now, most of us are rebelling against God and don't even know it because we follow traditions that our parents taught and they followed, and we are afraid to change tradition. We are headed straight to hell due to our love of tradition. Now, out of curiosity, how many of us have improved financially over the years because we eat collard greens and field peas every New Year's Eve? How many people have gotten out of debt that next year because we did this traditional thing that says if you do this, you're going to go into the year with money? How many of us say we got to get the house clean before New Year's so the house will be clean the whole year? Did that happen? How many of us say that my New Year's resolution is this? Did that change your and my condition for the better forever? If that were the case, then we will be headed toward perfection. It's a tradition. And if someone suggests that we stop the tradition, you and I would be so afraid we couldn't stop, or we would direct our anger towards the person who suggested that we stop because our fear says that's a bad person because they don't want me to keep doing what I'm accustomed to doing. We're talking about things that make a difference in the internal self and things that we need to look out for, because so many intelligent people are coming on social media with very good points and very good commentary, but you can tell by anyone that responds to them opposite of how they feel, their eyes rolling, their head bobbing, they want to get rid of you off the line because in their mind, they're right. They're not coming to you with suggestions and desire for improvement. They already think they're right. So we go 400,000 people on a page listening to these people talk, but check and see how many of them are subscribing to your page. They're not, because they don't feel you got anything to tell them. They just think that you are supposed to listen to them. So when I search through my pages, I don't care who it is, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Yvette Brown, I don't care who it is. Minister Farrakhan, I don't care. If you don't think that I'm important enough for you to listen to, then I'm not going to listen to you unless I choose to. Now, an imbalance of the three brains is the cause of the evil and the rebellion that we see in the world today. The book of Genesis starts with creation and then the reproduction of creation through sex. Then God pleads with the heart of man. He gives us instructions to remember in our brain. Through these three coming together, we could stay with God. If we produce properly in our sexual region, if we learn to appreciate what God has done for us in our heart, if we hold on to the thoughts of what God has done to us in our minds, and we reproduce that over and over again, this is the coming together of the three brains, which will create the fourth, which is the soul. We could stay with God, or at best return to God after making poor choices. That is the story in the Bible of the prodigal son. We are all prodigal, frivolous, careless, prodigal with thought, prodigal with emotions, and very prodigal in our sexual desires and our choice of sexual partners. Now, throughout life, we are tried to see how well we control our desires in thought, our desires in love, and our desires in sex. Looking at the world, I think we can agree that we have failed in all three of these areas because we became slaves to desire. Desire travels from the lower sexual region, the down here. This is why when we get angry, we get a hard on. When we get excited, we get a hard on. When we get emotional, we get sexually aroused. We become slaves to that desire. This is what causes infidelity. This is what causes women to come home with babies that aren't the babies of the father. This is what causes the father to take on responsibility out of his love for what he sees, his desire to see them do well. This is what happens. I'm sorry on YouTube, I didn't even click over to my face one time while I was broadcasting. I'm in the moment of what's being said by God's permission, but I clicked over. Now, because we became slaves to desires, desire travels from the lower sexual region and desire fuels the will. It travels to the heart, which pumps that emotion throughout the body and plants that desire and that thought directly into our brain. I'm talking right now about how church functions, because the scripture says we are all God's children of the Most High God. And the Holy Assembly is not a building. The Holy Assembly is the individual self who is able to sync the mind, the heart, the sexual desires to work together for the good of God's purpose. Jesus Christ did that. That is why he is the ultimate example And that is why we see him today as what we would love to emulate or immolate. Now, once desire is in the brain, it will either produce good results or bad results. Satan is a product of desire. That's why we all have a Satan within us. And God's mercy manifested that Satan by reproducing satanic thought and then putting that thought right in front of our face for us to see. So if we had thoughts opposite of God, we have children now who don't know if they're boy or girl. They're evil, they're megalomaniacs, they're plutocrats, they are sociopaths, they are mentally unstable. Not because they are just mentally unstable, but because those desires were either in our heart, in our brain, or in our sexual desire, and in that we produce something. So God created us and then allowed us to reproduce our thought. And from the period of creation to now, our thought has gone further and further down, animalistic. Satan is a product of desire. Satan, the thought manifested in human form, is no spook or a red thing under the earth with a pitchfork and horns. Satan is a man that says he believes in what he does, and he works toward manifesting what he believes in order to satisfy his egotistical desires, his egotistical self. These desires control the brain, all three of them. The brain, the heart, and the lower self, the motor, instinctual, sexual brain, which is the penis or the vagina. Tell him or her that his way, our way is superior, and our way is right. That's why everything we hear about Satan in this day is about sex. There's always some sexual ritual going on. There's always some sex slave somewhere. This is how Satan operates. Or it is about the mind and mind control through fear. There's always some torture. There's always some fear of loss. There's always some desire to control an individual to make them think the way they want them to think. It is manipulation of thought based on our desires for a particular outcome. All of this stuff we talk about, this Illuminati, this world of mind control, this satanic cabal, it's all based on sex, thought, and desire, because desire fuels the will. Now, if you want money, do this. You want notoriety, do that. Do this, and not only do it, but believe that it's right. So now we are a race of people who said, we are a group of people, a nation of people who say, I desire to do this. And whether it's right or whether it's wrong, because I desire it, I'm going to make it right. And in thinking that we wanted to be right, feeling that we wanted to be right, and producing that thought, we produce children who manifest our evil. So we have a world of what they are now calling zombies, because we are all slaves to desire. And we are slaves to desire because either we have succumbed to our thinking, we have succumbed to our emotion, or we have succumbed to our sexual desires, and don't understand what succumbing to those things will produce. Now, when evil controls the brain, which is as high as we can go without assistance from God, the brain is as high as we can go without God's assistance. And if we don't get past the brain, we can't get to the soul. Jesus was allowed into the world in order to cause us to look inside of ourselves so that we could find our mistakes and rise where he is. As he says, where I am, you can be also. Now, the soul will never manifest itself, because evil pushes negative desires to the heart downward, and then to the sexual organs flowing downward. So it eventually goes beyond the point of no return. Now, ministers that understand biblical scripture knows that that point of no return is called hell. Ministers in Christianity or in the Vatican know that that point of no return is also called purgatory. And ministers of the Hebrew faith the Jews, the so-called Jews and the original Jews, know that this is called Hades or Klipath. These are all going beyond our own desires into hell. Hell is not a place. Hell is a condition that we put ourselves in. Now, these trials of the soul go on in our lives every single moment of every day. God does not, nor will he ever waste time. We waste time. We look for a pastime. How do I pass my time? I pass my time by looking at sports. I pass my time by having sex. I pass my time by looking in magazines or by doing something that amounts to nothing at the end of the day. I'm bored. I need to pass my time. God doesn't get bored, and God doesn't utilize time frivolously. We utilize time frivolously. Now, if the spirit rises beyond the brain, then you and I will see God or our own individual soul. We begin to find our purpose in life. As Jesus Christ says, let that mind in you, it be in you that was also in God. It's not exactly like that, but I'm quoting it. Let that mind be in you that was also in Jesus Christ. That mind is the mind that goes beyond our mind into the thinking of God. If the brain has impediments, then we may take a glimpse at our soul, a peek into heaven, but we aren't allowed to stay. Just like Moses, after leading the children of Israel, ourselves, to the promised land, which means that he taught us how to overcome our fear, our negative desires, our emotions, and our thought. Moses did that. But after doing that, he made the mistake of thinking of himself opposite of God. Must I smite this rock? Must I do this or do that? The ego got in the way, and he was denied the promised land. Moses is an example of us. Many of us who have degrees, who are beneficial, who take our thinking and our desires beyond what God desires for us to do and to act and to think, and we become selfish. I'm almost done. I really am. And I know this is not what we're accustomed to hearing, but it's what we need to hear. We are responsible. Now, we take a glimpse into heaven every now and then. You may see a little vision. You may have a dream that was close to what you saw that day. You may have a dream that someone got killed, but you don't know exactly who. But someone does get killed, and you say, I know I was dreaming or thinking about something. That is because God has blessed us with the mental capacity in our minds, in our heart, and even in our sexual organs to come together in one thought. But we are abusing either our desire to think, our desire to love, or our desire to have sex. We are abusing one of those three. And in abusing one of those three, we are not allowed to go beyond ourself. So we are constantly looking for satisfaction in something. Many of us are addicted to church, are addicted to some chemical substance, addicted to gossip, addicted to sex, addicted to loving someone who we don't think deserves love. God's mercy allows us to come back and work on controlling our three brains by working harder on our individual imperfections. We call it backsliding. When we fall from our spiritual growth, but God gives us another chance until we die or until we fall so low in our desire that we decide, I'm just going to stay in hell. Many of us have decided, I'm just going to stay in hell. Now, at the beginning, I mentioned The Matrix. If you haven't seen the Matrix movie, just watch the first 20 minutes. I think it's in the first 20 minutes where the gentleman is actually on the side of the red pill, where he wants to know truth and fight against evil, but he gets tired of fighting against evil. And he talks to Mr. Smith, I think his name is, and he says, I don't want to remember nothing. And I want to be somebody. I want to be important. I want a good job. And he says, he's eating a steak that doesn't even exist. And I know this steak is not real, but it tastes so good. So many of us are in hell, a make-believe world, and we don't even know it. In closing, it's mentioned throughout the Bible. If we would look at it properly, and if our ministers would begin to teach it properly, we can see it. God is opposite of devil. Heaven is opposite of hell. So the same things that are going on in heaven are going on in hell. That's why the church looks like the street. Everything in there is in the world. That's why the mosques sometimes, you see the gangsters and the hustlers in there that are hustling you under the name of Louis Farrakhan or whoever the imam is to get what they want, because they didn't leave the street in the street. They brought it in the holy place, or the place that is working towards being holy. And they have no desire to leave it. They're going to keep doing it forever. And if they do it long enough, they actually believe they're not doing anything wrong. And I was talking about that, about Bishop Eddie Long, and how I believe his intent in the beginning was good. He made a mistake and fell in love with that mistake and justified it. So he no longer tried to fight it and never said I was wrong. Or, what is his name? The one who said, I have sinned against you, my Lord. Who cried out in public that he committed a sin because he was caught with a prostitute, but was caught again with the prostitute after that. So heaven and hell, they look the same. Everything in there is the same in heaven as in hell. Many people go into the mysticism and say, as above, so below. Do as thou wilt. We see Jay-Z and Kanye West and all of them wearing these horns and goats and all of this stuff. And we say they worship the devil. The devil is themselves. They're worshiping their self and their desire. And they justify their desire so that they can live well in this world. So heaven and hell are two different conditions of life, but they look the same. So many of us are in hell, but we think we are in heaven. And many of us are on our way to heaven, but because the trials are so hard and the journey is so lonely, and we feel so much hurt and pain, we feel as if though we are in hell. So we turn around and we go back to those friends who were doing the things we didn't want to do. We go back to that woman who treated us like garbage because this is easier, because trying to make it to heaven is so difficult. Now, I want to paint a picture of what hell looks like when we give into our lower sexual desires, which manifest into thought and then manifest themselves into action. This is a problem in the church. Giving into the lower brain, the third brain, the sexual self. We give into that. And we don't turn away from that. We indulge in that. We don't try to fix it. We justify it. So homosexuality, now you got to accept it because we are gay. So you got to accept it. So no one is saying it's wrong. So generation after generation are producing this homosexual mind that says, I have to do it because the generation before me said it was okay to do it. All of the sins that the 75-year-olds, the 80-year-olds, the 100-year-olds who have grown into the church now and think they've done no wrong, all of the sin you committed, you hid it, and you hid it behind God. And now that sin has to be made manifest through the children, and you stand there and you say, what's wrong with the children? You and I are wrong with them because we won't tell them the truth. We'll never tell them the truth. We'll die with it. We would rather die and leave our children like they are than to tell them the truth. What's godly about that? So now, our actions are manifested now. Our thoughts are manifested now. God says that because you have forgotten about me, I will forget your children. It's in the Bible. Everything we see from homosexuality to corruption to adultery, our poor children being born out of sexual lust. Mom don't know who the daddy is, so she just say, you the daddy. And daddy, out of his love for mama, says, okay, I'm the daddy. But what happens to the child who is having feelings that they don't know where they came from because they don't have no connection with their blood relative in their bloodline, they don't know. Time is out for it. Mama just picks one because of her sexual desire, uncontrollable urges in her lower self. Now, evil and corruption are all because of a lack of control of our three brains. It starts in the lower region. When we get afraid, we get excited sexually. You tickle us, we get excited. We feel love, we get excited sexually. That we see a nice piece of behind, we want it. We get excited sexually. Woman, you see a man, oh, he's so handsome, I'm going to give him some. That feeling rises from that fire in our loins, in the groin. Rick James and Tina Marie did a song called Fire and Desire. Listen to it. The Bible talks about the fire. Listen and read it, because it's talking about the lower desire, that urge that we can't fight. That desire rises from the sexual organs into the second brain, which is the heart. The heart is emotional. Sometimes it stays there. So no matter how bad a man or woman treat us, we stay because now we are being controlled by our heart. Then the heart pumps that thought to the brain and we stay because now we think, we believe, we really love them, because now that negative thought has control over us because it is in our brain. And we're cut off from God because we can no longer go any higher. I want you to think about that for a minute. Maybe we'll go deeper into it, maybe not. But I thank all of you for tuning in. And I want to say this again. If you are liking my videos on YouTube, our personal page on Facebook, and you are not listening to them, don't like it. That's an insult to us and the difficult task it takes to write. I'm sorry, I want to lean down and show you something real quick. The difficult task it takes to write all of this material and then type it up, trying to write as fast as God puts it in our brain, and then type it up on the screen, and then set up all of this equipment, lights all over the place, sound, computers, 3 cameras, 4 cameras. And then all you give us is a like. See, we are so accustomed to loving someone else's life because their life, we don't have to live it. So we can love what Steve Harvey say, and we can love what Oprah say, because we don't live, we don't see them every day. We can imagine in our minds that everything they say really is true. But when you see a person going through it and you don't understand how God works, God is painful. And that's why Jesus had to be tortured, because being with God is painful. And we say, oh, look at Jesus. Look at all the pain. If I was with Jesus, your and my chance are here. Jesus says, deny yourself, pick up your cross and follow me. No, I don't want to do that. I want to be happy every day. I don't want to be depressed. And Satan answers your prayers and gives you all of these antidepressants. But in depression is where you begin to connect with God, because we need help. But in depression, we look for an escape. So we look to the sexual brain. We want to screw our brains out. We want to love somebody so bad and don't even like ourselves. Or we want to think that everything is okay. This world is not Donald Trump's fault. The condition of the world is not Donald Trump's fault. The condition of the world is not poor people's fault or rich people's fault. It is a collective of our desires that go contrary to God, and God is allowing them to manifest, and those desires will be our downfall. So we are living in the book of Revelations, and death and its rider, behold, a white horse, death, a pale horse, and death is the rider of that horse. We are in Revelation. So you might be feeling happy. You might be getting everything out of life you want, you and I, but we're in hell. We'll find out soon enough. Or you might be alone and depressed, but God is tugging on you now. He's trying to get you to see your and my impediments now. And if you really want to be like Jesus Christ, you're going to face that. And you're going to look in the face of that pain and say, what did I do? How can I fix it? I'm talking to you, you older generations of liars. You hiding behind church and your idea of what God is. But we've made many mistakes. And if you die on it, then there are generations after you that got to suffer your filth. That's it. I'm done. Thank you for tuning in, Facebook. I'm gone. To YouTube, Facebook, I will post this up again. If it didn't do too well, I don't know what it did. I got so caught up in the moment. God is the greatest. But I feel this in my heart. I feel that if we don't take advantage of what God has given us and use it for the right reasons, we're going to lose another generation. I don't care what they have. I don't care how many degrees they have. I don't care how rich they are. I don't care where they are, how they live. They're in pain. Our children are in pain. And they're trying to substitute that pain doing things. And we just look at them and say, pull your pants up. Why the hell you think their pants are down? What was your desire when you were screwing around with everybody? Your pants were down. What was your desire when you were in the church, but you were horny and thinking, your pants are down? This is not an accident. God's mercy manifests what we think so we can see it. And it manifests through our children. So when we see them homosexual or hurting or addicted, we have to look at them and say, what did I do? What did my mother and father do? Where am I lacking? How can I help? What must I think? What must I pray to help my children? You know what we do? We justify it because we don't want to fight. Oh, I'm going to love him no matter what he is. I'm going to love him. Yeah, he in prison for murder, but that's my son. That's us. I'm going. So I'll talk forever on this subject because it's personal to me. It's personal how you raise someone just to fear you, and then you push them out into the world and say, be somebody. Don't embarrass me. Don't you embarrass me. And they stay in pain all of their life trying to please you and are never satisfied with themselves because they never understand their thinking, how their heart works. They love so hard and too hard and love the wrong people. How their sexual desire works. You know, I was just looking at a documentary. They did an experiment. Strangers would meet. If the woman agreed to disrobe from her top down, she keep her pants on. The man takes off his shirt and they embrace each other. They were doing an experiment to prove how important it is to feel touch, how important it is to feel somebody hold you. And these complete strangers who agreed to do it, you could see in their faces, wow, this feels so. And now they're breast to breast, woman and man that don't even know each other. They're feeling emotion. I saw one woman hug a chubby Mexican guy, and he looked at her like he wanted to kiss her. He felt it so much. They have a thing called eye gazing, where you look into a person's eyes and see their emotions. We need emotional connection, but all we're getting is orders from mama, from daddy. Do this, do that. Don't you embarrass me. And then they become successful, and from a distance we see them and, oh, my son is this and my daughter is that, but they're miserable. Drug addicts, alcoholics, same-sex marriages, corrupt. This is not an accident. Everything that we see may be good, look good, feel good, but it is God saying, look at yourself. I'm going to cause your children to suffer to teach you something. And when you take all of that prayer power that you have and use it for a good reason, then I'll save your house and your children. But you living off of somebody else's prayer. How the hell can Joyce Myers know what you going through when you ghetto dwellers? How TD Jakes know? He's different now. Jay-Z don't know. You got to find that within yourself, you and I. And we got to meet God where we are. And we got to walk through that painful journey of carrying that cross to save our poor and suffering children. Thank you for listening. I'm off now. Brother Johnny, the 19 report, if you are listening to what I'm saying and you like and understand how beneficial what God has given me to tell us, please share it. Make sure, emphasize, insist that they listen. Find a part that you know someone needs to hear and give it to them. Because there's no way a person can talk from Genesis to Revelations and the people still be crazy and God has to send death into the world for our crazy behinds. That's a lot of talking because no one understands it properly and no one is sharing it because I just want to be entertained and I don't want to hurt and I just want to enjoy life. Lord have mercy. Thank you for listening. I'm off the air. Facebook, thank you for listening. And I am off on YouTube. Thank you all for listening. Please be on the lookout for our commentary, Satan's Last Stand, because we are always looking for somebody to categorize as Satan. But really, Satan is within us. And we created it, and God manifested it in order to show us mercy. But instead of us understanding that, what we do is we look for someone to blame and we never look within ourselves. Thank you for tuning in, Brother Johnny of the 19 Report, Manning, South Carolina.